Last week, my wife Claire declared our marriage finished. Her voice carried no trace of sorrow, only the sharp edge of triumph. We sat in the dining room of the home we'd built over a decade, a space now heavy with betrayal. She slid a manila envelope across the table, her eyes glinting with certainty. "This is the end, David," she said, her tone as cold as a boardroom firing. "I've consulted a lawyer. These are my terms." I didn't touch the envelope. I didn't need to. Claire laid out her demands with relish. The house, funded partly by my grandmother's savings, 3/4 of our joint account, and alimony for 7 years. It wasn't a discussion, it was a demand for capitulation. She leaned back, a smug smile curling her lips. "Don't make this messy, David," she said, her voice laced with mockery. "You're just a community college art teacher. You can't afford the kind of lawyer I've hired. Mine will drown you in fees before you even step into court. Just sign and move on." I stared at the woman I'd once vowed to love forever, feeling a chill settle in my chest. She wasn't just leaving me, she wanted to destroy me, to grind me into nothing. She thought I was defenseless, a man without options. I let the silence stretch, my face unreadable, then spoke the words she expected. "You're right." Her smile widened, victory assured. The quiet teacher wouldn't fight back. She stood, adjusted her blouse, and said, "Smart choice. You'll get the papers soon." Then she left the room, her heels clicking with finality. What Claire knew was true. I lived modestly, with no fortune to fund a legal war. She also knew I had an older brother, Ethan, but she was counting on the fact that we hadn't spoken in 6 years. Ethan wasn't a teacher, he was a legend. The state's most formidable divorce attorney, a name that sent shivers through legal circles. But our bond had fractured after our parents' death over their old farmhouse. I wanted to preserve it as a piece of our past. Ethan, always practical, saw it as a burden to sell. Our argument had left us estranged, a rift Claire had seen firsthand. She believed my strongest ally was gone forever. She was mistaken. For 3 days I sank into despair, haunted by the thought of losing my home, my savings, everything I'd built. On the 4th day I hit bottom and found resolve. I dug up Ethan's private number, my hands trembling as I dialed. I braced for voicemail, but his deep voice answered after one ring. "Ethan, it's David," I said, my voice barely steady. A long pause followed, heavy with years of silence. "Davy," he said, using my childhood nickname. "What's happened?" I spilled everything Claire's demands. Her lawyer, her taunt that I couldn't fight back. Another silence, then Ethan's voice turned hard, protective. "She said what?" he asked, low and dangerous. I repeated her words. "All right," he said. "When's the court date?" "Next Monday, downtown courthouse," I replied. "I'll be there," he said. "Don't speak to her or her lawyer. Don't sign anything. Just show up." We hung up, my pulse racing with a mix of fear and hope. Claire thought she'd cornered me. She didn't know she'd just unleashed my greatest weapon. The morning of the hearing was gray and dreary, a fitting backdrop. I walked into the courthouse alone in my only suit, feeling like a man headed to his own execution. The courtroom was cold, smelling of ink and tension. Claire sat at the plaintiff's table, radiant in a tailored black suit. Her lawyer, a sleek man in his 50s, grinning beside her. They whispered, chuckling as I entered. Claire's eyes flicked to me, her smile tinged with pity, expecting a broken man. I met her gaze, expressionless, and sat at the defendant's table, my worn briefcase beside me. Her lawyer approached, all condescension. "Mr. Harper, let's keep this simple. Sign my client's terms and we'll wrap this up today." "I'm waiting for my attorney," I said quietly. He laughed, dismissive. "Good luck with that." He returned to Claire's side. The bailiff called for order. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, took her seat. "Harper versus Harper," she announced. "Are all parties represented?" Claire's lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor, Gregory Vance for Mrs. Claire Harper." The judge turned to me. Before I could respond, the courtroom doors swung open with a heavy thud. Every eye turned. Ethan strode in, his charcoal suit sharp as a blade, his presence commanding. Murmurs spread. Lawyers and clerks recognized him instantly. He walked to my table, placed a hand on my shoulder, and sat, his polished briefcase landing with a deliberate snap. I glanced at Claire. Her confident facade shattered, replaced by raw shock. Her lawyer's grin vanished, his face pale. They knew who Ethan was. "Sorry I'm late, little brother," Ethan whispered, a faint smirk on his face. Traffic was brutal. He faced the judge, his voice resonant. "Ethan Caldwell, Your Honor, representing Mr. David Harper." The judge's eyes widened slightly. She knew his name. Ethan turned to Claire, his gaze icy. "My apologies for the delay," he said, his tone mock courteous. Then, locking eyes with her, he delivered the blow. "He doesn't need to pay me. I'm his brother." Claire's world collapsed in that moment. She'd expected a rout. She'd walked into a trap. Ethan opened his briefcase, pulling out a stack of documents, and began dismantling her case. He rejected her demands as exploitative, announced a counterpetition, and demanded a full audit of their finances, plus Claire covering my legal costs. Her lawyer stammered, outmatched. The battle was over before it started. The next 2 months were a legal onslaught. Ethan didn't just fight, he dominated. He filed a discovery motion so thorough it was a masterpiece, demanding every financial record Claire had touched in 6 years. Her lawyer tried to block it, calling it excessive, but the judge, wary of Ethan's reputation, approved it entirely. Claire was buried in paperwork, her secrets unraveling. Ethan didn't stop there. He deposed her friends, family, and co-workers, squeezing the truth from every angle. The turning point came with her friend, Sarah. Under Ethan's relentless but charming questioning, Sarah cracked, revealing Claire's affair with Ryan Ellison, a wealthy investor she'd met at a gala. Ethan produced hidden bank statements, charges for luxury hotels, designer clothes, and dinners for two, all drawn from our joint account. Sarah admitted Ryan was Claire's lover for 2 years, and Claire had lied about business trips to cover it. Ryan's deposition was devastating. Arrogant at first, he folded under Ethan's pressure, admitting he'd encouraged Claire to demand the house and alimony, assuming I'd be too weak to resist. Their plan was to fund their new life with my money. Ethan exposed Claire's perjury she'd claimed, fidelity in her filings, and her theft of $75, zero in marital funds. Her case was in ruins. Her lawyer begged to settle, offering to drop all demands. Ethan's response was glacial. No, she wanted a war. She's getting one. 6 months later, I stood in that same courtroom. No longer the broken man I'd been. The final hearing was a formality. Ethan's evidence depositions, financial audits, proof of Claire's affair and fraud left her no defense. Her lawyer, exhausted, urged her to accept our terms. They were merciless. Claire lost all claims to the house, her alimony was denied, and she was ordered to repay $75,000 she'd siphoned. She left with a fraction of our savings, a pile of legal debts, and her reputation in tatters. Her personal life imploded. Ryan, drawn to winners, abandoned her after her public defeat. Her friends, forced to testify against her, cut ties. Claire lost her lover, her home, her wealth, and her dignity, all because she underestimated me. But the true victory wasn't her downfall. It was what happened with Ethan weeks after the divorce. He called me to our parents' farmhouse, the source of our 6-year rift. I found him on the porch, staring at the fields. We didn't mention Claire. Instead, we talked about Dad's awful camping trips, Mom's legendary peach cobbler, our childhood adventures. "I was wrong, Davy," Ethan said, his voice heavy. "I saw this house as a number, not a home." "I was wrong too," I admitted. I clung to the past, not the future. We decided to keep the farmhouse, spending weekends repairing it, fixing the roof, painting the walls, making it ours again. It's no longer a shrine to yesterday, but a foundation for tomorrow, a place for our family to rebuild. Claire's final jab was that I couldn't afford a lawyer. Her arrogance, her greed, Her belief I was alone, they pushed me to call Ethan, mending the bond I thought was lost. She aimed to strip me bare. Instead, she gave me back my brother, my home, and my strength.